Legacy of Atlantis will be the second major remake or reimagine of the classic Tomb Raider game. Now, the question is, will Legacy of Atlantis succeed where Tomb Raider Anniversary failed, or will it bring back the classic Tomb Raider? In my personal opinion, it will not do the latter. I do not think Legacy of Atlantis will feel like classic Tomb Raider in the literal sense. But before we even answer that question, I think we really need to be clear about what we mean when we say we want classic Tomb Raider to be back. When people ask for classic to come back, are we talking about the game itself, or are we talking about Lara Croft as a character? Because those two things are very distinct from one another. If we're talking about the game itself, then I think the answer is quite simple. Classic Tomb Raider was a product of the 90s. Those games were built around the technology, the limitations, and the design expectations of the PlayStation 1 era. The controls, the grid-based movement, the blocking environments, the level design, the platforming, all of that came from a very specific period in gaming. So, obviously, if you're talking about, oh, I want classic Tomb Raider to be back, that's not going to happen nowadays, but that's very obvious and most people know about that. But even if we think back, a classic Tomb Raider was not going to last forever. By the end of the 90s and the early 2000s, it was clear that the franchise needed to evolve. The sales were dropping drastically with each release, because you cannot keep releasing the same type of game forever and expect it to stay fresh. We actually do need change, otherwise any franchise, no matter how iconic, will eventually fade. When I think about classic Tomb Raider as of today, I do not think about bringing the exact same mechanics, obviously, but I think about bringing back the spirit of classic Tomb Raider. And this is where I think the conversation can become extremely interesting. When we think about classic Tomb Raider, I think there's one thing that comes out particularly, and that's the sense of discovery. The most important thing about the classics that we can bring back, it's the sense of discovery. The feeling of being alone, exploring something mysterious, and having to figure out things completely by yourself. This is what I really miss in the Tomb Raider franchise. Ever since Crystal Dynamics took over, I do think Tomb Raider has become much more straightforward. And I say that as someone who absolutely loves every single era of this franchise. Granted, one more than others, obviously. With the Loud trilogy, I had a lot of fun with it, and with the Survivor trilogy, I also love the games, even though I have major issues with Lara Croft, but that's a completely different topic for another video itself. In terms of game design, I missed the challenge. I missed the mystery of exploring alone. I missed tombs that feel dangerous, atmospheric, and rewarding. I do not want a game that constantly tells me what to do. I understand why modern games are designed this way to an extent. Developers have to appeal to a much wider audience now, and they do not want players to get frustrated, quit the game, and start criticizing it because they got stuck. Back in the classic era, getting stuck was part of the experience. People did not have instant access to walkthroughs, guides, and YouTube videos in the same way that we have today. But at the same time, Tomb Raider should trust the player base a little bit more, because part of the identity of Tomb Raider, again, is to figure things out, is looking at the space, understanding it, failing it, trying it again, and finally reaching that satisfying moment where everything clicks. And this is what I miss. But then, of course, we need to talk about nostalgia. Nostalgia is incredibly powerful. When people think about what they want from a new Tomb Raider game, a lot of the time, nostalgia is speaking. We remember how those games made us feel. We remember discovering Lara Croft for the first time. We remember the mystery, the silence, the danger, and the excitement of those older games. But we really need to be critical about this. If you think about the same exact formula being released today, I do not think it would have the same impact as it had in '96. Tomb Raider was revolutionary at the time. 3D games were still new, Lara Croft stood out immediately. The scale of the environments, the atmosphere, the exploration, the first female character, or one of the first very strong female character leads, all of that felt fresh and groundbreaking. But gaming has changed, technology has changed. Audiences have changed, and it's much harder now for a game to truly revolutionary in the same way. So for me, Legacy of Atlantis should not try to recreate the past exactly. It should make us remember why the past matters. If we're talking about bringing classic back, I think we have a much better chance of seeing classic Lara return than classic Tomb Raider gameplay. Speaking just a little bit about Lara Croft, even though I don't want to make this video about the character, I think it's important to mention that Lara Croft was never just iconic because of her weapons, her outfit, her looks. She was also iconic because of her attitude. She was confident, witty, independent, elegant, dangerous, intelligent, sassy, and my new favorite word from Alex, unapologetic. She had dry humor, presence, and a sense of control that made her almost untouchable. She was my hero. She was always my hero since I was a child, and this is what I want to see back. I want this Lara Croft to be back. And from what we've seen so far, I think Legacy of Atlantis will make a lot of fans really happy. And going back to classic Tomb Raider, my least favorite Tomb Raider, so Tomb Raider 2013, actually gave me a moment of nostalgia, that worked really well. When you collect all of the GPS catches, the final one triggers Lara's iconic aha sound from Tomb Raider 2.
Aha! There's a note inside.
When I heard that for the first time, I genuinely felt something. It was such a small detail, but immediately brought me back. And that to me is nostalgia well done. Not copying the entire past, not trying to pretend like we're still in the 90s, obviously that's not going to happen, but giving fans little moments that remind them of why they fell in love with Tomb Raider in the first place. But again, do not change too much, but what you change, remember to give us some nostalgic moments so that we, as fans and new fans, just feel like we belong in a franchise. So now let's talk a little bit about Anniversary. I think Tomb Raider Anniversary was a very interesting warning sign. Anniversary was already an attempt to modernize the original Tomb Raider. And personally, obviously, I really do love that game, and I know it gets a lot of criticism, but I generally do enjoy it. However, Anniversary also shows how difficult this whole process of reimagining the original is. Anniversary tried to remake Tomb Raider for a more modern era, but for many fans, it did not quite land. Some people felt that the atmosphere was different, the puzzles were easier, the scale was reduced, and the experience felt too familiar, while also not being faithful enough. And that's a very dangerous position for a remake to. If it's too similar, people say, what's the point? I already know this story. But if it's too different, then people will go about and say, well, this is not really Tomb Raider now, is it? And that is why I'm slightly worried about Legacy of Atlantis. But at the same time, I'm also hopeful when I hear the directors describe it more as a love letter and a reimagining rather than a direct one-to-one remake. It suggests that they are not simply trying to recreate Tomb Raider 1. They are trying to take the essence of Tomb Raider and build it into something new from that foundation. And I think this is actually the best approach that they can do. But now this is a message to all of the fans. I really want you guys, especially longtime fans, here we are, to go with this new game with neutral expectations. The best approach and the healthiest approach is to have an open mind. Legacy of Atlantis will not be like classic Tomb Raider. It will not recreate the same feeling of playing Tomb Raider like it did in '96. But it can absolutely bring back the spirit of classic Tomb Raider if it's made correctly. It can bring back exploration that makes us think. It can bring back tombs that feel mysterious and rewarding, and it can stop holding the player's hand at all times and trust us a little bit more. And perhaps most importantly, I think it will bring classic or Lara Croft back. So to wrap things up, if Legacy of Atlantis can bring back the spirit of Tomb Raider and can bring back that Lara that truly feels like Lara again in a modern game, then maybe we don't need to think about classic Tomb Raider. We just need to think that Legacy of Atlantis will be a Tomb Raider game, and the directors and developers behind the making of this game, and the team that's behind the making of this game is very passionate. It has a lot of fans, and it has a lot of good directors and developers. And I think this is the most important thing. If Legacy of Atlantis is a love letter well made, then I think it will be a bright future ahead for Tomb Raider. And I think that's what we need to have in mind when we come into the new Tomb Raider game. So thank you so much for listening, and if you want to see more videos like this, please give it a like. Give your comment down below. You know, I love to read people's comments. I love when we differ in opinions, so I love civilized discourse. So if you have something to say that you disagree or agree, leave a comment down below. Subscribe, join our Discord server. It's super fun. It's full of great people, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.